Hi. So welcome to my very first Q&A. I've been doing YouTube for a little over a year now. And kind of a year-end review and also an opportunity for you all to get to know me a little bit better. I wanted to do this Q&A before the year ended out. Originally, I'd wanted to do some members-only Q&As in the future, especially if I get more members, making something like that. So if you want to become a member and support a members-only Q&A, I'll put a link to my membership down in the description. These questions were all asked by my YouTube viewers from a community post that I made. I tried to include all the questions in this video. And because I know that looking at me standing in my apartment is probably not going to be the most interesting thing for however long this video ends up being, we'll put some train footage over top because I know that's what you all are here for anyway. With that being said, just before we get into the first question, just want to remind you that if you do enjoy my content and want to see more of it in the future, or find yourself coming back here, consider subscribing or leaving a like on this video. Or if you want to support me directly, consider becoming a member. Members get extra perks like having their names in all my videos, and maybe in the future, members-only Q&As just like this one. With that all being said, let's get to the first question. So the first question comes in from one of my members, Luler21, who asks, what are you in Japan for, work, school, or other? And then a follow-up question from another member via Ride a Train. Building on that one, do you expect to move back out of Japan in the near future, or is it the intention to stay for an undetermined time? So the reason I'm in Japan is because of something called the JET program, the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program. It's basically an English teaching program in Japan where people from English-speaking countries like Australia, America, the UK, and so on come to Japan and teach at schools all around the country. They work in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and so on. I teach at a senior high school here in Tokyo. So that's what I spend most of my time doing. I work full-time at a high school somewhere within Tokyo. The thing about JET, and this kind of relates to that second question, is that on JET, you are really only given one contract at a time. It goes year by year contracts. So I'm right now in the middle of my second year on JET. And in Tokyo, you can do up to 5 years. Now, of course, do I want to stay for all those 5 years? I haven't decided yet. I'd like to because, well, America is something right now. But doing JET has been a really rewarding experience, but I just don't know if I want to go back yet. I mean, 5 years ago, I was still in college. I had barely just started learning Japanese. And in 5 years from now, who knows what I'll be doing. Would I like to stay in Japan? Maybe, if the opportunity arises. But if my time on JET ends in 2029 and I tell myself, you know, I've had my fun here, I think it's time for me to go home, or this YouTube channel doesn't take off to the point that I can support myself doing it full time here in Japan, then, you know, maybe I take the flight home and say, you know, I'm glad that I went, but I'm ready to get back to my own country. We'll have to see, and I hope that answers that question. So the next question comes in from another member of mine, Boku4649, who says, which days of the week do you have available, generally, for getting about and filming on site? So the way that it works here in Tokyo on JET is that if you work at a public school, like I do, you work 16 days over the course of a month. Now those 16 days can be any day. Sometimes it's on weekends when there's a special event going on. Some people, they work, 4 days every week. Some people work 3 days some week, 5 days some week. It really depends a lot on the school. So usually I have at least one weekday off that I can use for going and filming, but it's on that day as well that if I need to make an appointment for something that's only on weekdays that it's open, I have to do that. If I have to go grocery shopping, I do that on a Wednesday. So I can have the Wednesdays off, and then I obviously have the weekend off because most of the time there's no classes for me on weekends, so I don't have to go in on those days. School, though, takes up a lot of my time, even when I'm not working, I'm prepping for lessons or doing other stuff. So I don't have as much free time as I would like to put towards this YouTube channel. But of course, working here in Japan, that has to take my top priority because that's what my visa's tied to. And if I lose that visa, I go home. So question from Momster Grub, one of my members. What are your most and least favorite things about Japanese trains? And then also Suica or Pasmo. So favorite thing about Japanese trains, I guess, is just like the reliability of them all. I mean, I'm from the US where, if you wanted to take an Excella, which is like the fastest train in the US between major cities, it's not going to be on time. The Shinkansen, if you're taking that between Tokyo and Osaka or Tokyo and Sendai, it's always going to be on time. 99% of the time, the train I take to work is on time. The Chuo line, even if it's a little more unreliable than some others, is still on time most of the time. So that's, for me, the best part of it. But worst part, 100% just how crowded they are. Of course, you can get really packed, especially during rush hour. Even in my commute, which is, at 8 in the morning, trains are still pretty busy. And even randomly on weekends, or if I'm coming back late at night from downtown, the trains will still be pretty packed. So pro, very reliable. Con, because they're so reliable, people use them all the time, especially in Tokyo, and they get super packed really, really easily. And the second part to that was Pasmo or Suica. For me personally, it's actually Pasmo. It was just the first transit pass that I bought on my first trip to Japan back in 2023. So that's just been the one that stuck with me. Although I do prefer the Suica Penguin to whatever Pasmo's mascot is. But once they get rid of the Suica Penguin next year, we'll have to see if that stays true. Question from Almost Gingerish. Where did your love of trains come from? Well, you see, when my mother was pregnant, she took a lot of Tylenol. Real answer though, it comes from my grandfather. When I was young, my grandfather passed when I was in first grade of elementary school, so this is when I was, preschool age. We would go up to the train station in the largest city in my state, the city of Wilmington, in the state of Delaware. And that station's on the Northeast Corridor, which is the busiest train line in the US, at least passenger train line. And we would just watch trains come and go for hours at a time. Also, when I was young, there was an art museum that had a giant model train set every Christmas, so my mother would take me up there every single year, and I, could run around and just watch trains go in that place for hours at a time. So it really just comes from when I was young, and then now that I'm older, living in a city where I have public transit, it's just so convenient, and, I love living here because of that. Question from Fuzzy Biscuits 420. Will you ever do a face reveal? No. Questions from I Use YouTube. What is your favorite train series? If you mean like specific train models, I don't know, I guess the 700 series bullet train. I think that's the modern one that they use on the Tokaido Shinkansen. I don't really have one like that. I like riding the trains, but I'm not that much of a train person that I have a favorite train model. Sorry to disappoint. Next question. Where is your favorite place in Japan to visit? Yokohama in Kanagawa Prefecture. If you're in Tokyo, especially if you're visiting Japan for the first time and you don't have the money to travel down to Kyoto and Osaka, you gotta go to Yokohama. Yokohama's Minato Mirai district, Yokohama Chinatown, just that entire part of Yokohama City. It's fantastic. It's also close down to Kamakura and Enoshima, and you can ride Enoden, which is super cool. So definitely go down to Yokohama and Kanagawa if you can. Last question from this person. Will you do more collabs with Tanner? I hope to in the future. I'm just super duper busy with work, and it's really hard for us to kind of schedule stuff to work together. When the summer comes and I have a lot more time off of work, maybe we'll have more time to do something. But for right now, yeah, I'd like to do something. I just don't know when it's going to happen. Question from Andrea Fox 4099. What is your favorite subway system in the world and why? Madrid. You're probably thinking I was going to say Tokyo, weren't you? But no, it's Madrid. When I was a student back in university, my freshman year of college, I lived in Madrid for a semester right before the pandemic. And it was the first time I lived away from home, the first time I lived in another country, and the first time that I had to learn a metro system like the back of my hand. We had a metro card that was like 20 euros a month that gave us unlimited subway rides. So I just explore all of Madrid on the trains. I think it's, really prepared me for living in Tokyo, just kind of going off on the subways and the commuter lines in and around Madrid and just, finding out about the areas there. So for me, the Madrid Metro, which, probably isn't at the same level of Tokyo's in terms of like its comprehensiveness. Is that a word? I don't know if that's a word. I hope it's a word. You know, you'd think of me being an English teacher, I would know if it's a word, but I don't. Where was I going with this? Right, the Madrid Metro. It doesn't maybe not as comprehensive as the Tokyo subway system is, but it's still my favorite just because it's nostalgic for me. Next question from Sizzle Schnitzel. What is your favorite YouTube channel with under 500K subs? I don't really know if it's fair for me to shout out any specific creators. I mean, obviously it's not like I've got a very big influence. Obviously, I'll shout out Tanner, my YouTube friend that makes similar content to me. If you watch my videos, you probably watch his too, but if you don't, go watch his. Tell him I sent you. Otherwise, I'm a big sports fan and someone that makes really good documentaries about NASCAR in the US, guy by the name of LA Productions. Really recommend his videos. Even if you're not a NASCAR fan, you can probably enjoy them, but as a giant motorsports fan that I am, I really do, so I'll give a shout out to him as well. Question from Balkan Mapper XD. Would you do the same challenge that Tanner did, i.e. the one going from Tokyo to Nemuro? So recently, my friend Tanner did a challenge where he used a local train only ticket to go from Tokyo to the city of Nemuro in Hokkaido. It took him about 3 days to do, and it was a very, very successful video for him. For me, would I do something similar? Obviously, I wouldn't do the same thing because I don't want to copy him directly, but I have considered doing something similar to that. One of the first things I actually wanted to do on YouTube when I had this idea of doing train-related content was go from Wakanai in the very north of Japan all the way down to a station called Nishi Oyama in Kagoshima Prefecture, which is the northernmost and the southernmost train station on the main islands of Japan. So doing that would be really cool, but that's also really expensive. To do that entire trip would be like, God, half my month's salary. So I can't really afford doing that right now. But doing something similar I think would be cool. Maybe taking local trains between like Tokyo and Kyoto, or, you know, doing kind of the opposite and going from Tokyo to the very south station. But, you know, I don't want to copy him directly, but doing something like that I think would be pretty cool in the future. So question from Zellmeister. What are your favorite and least favorite stations in and outside of Tokyo, if you like? So, favorite stations, that's actually kind of difficult to think about. I'll give special mention to Higashi Ojima, which is a subway station over the, I think it's the Kunaka River on the border of Koto and Edogawa Ward in the east of Tokyo. That's one of my favorite stations and definitely my favorite subway station. Ochanomizu for train watching is really nice. And then, I mean, Tokyo Station's just massive and so many different amenities. Outside of Tokyo, do I have a favorite station outside of Tokyo? Honestly, Kyoto Station grew on me. The main part of Kyoto Station, I didn't like it the first time I was there, you know, being like, oh, Kyoto, this ancient city that has all this traditional culture, and then the interior of the station is just this. But it kind of grew on me as I was staying in that area, and I got to learn more about the station and, you know, learn my way through it. So I guess Kyoto Station. Least favorite station, though. Ooh, that's easy in Tokyo. Shibuya. I cannot stand Shibuya Station. It's super crowded, it's constantly under construction, and maybe in 5 years' time, when the construction is finished, I'll like Shibuya Station more, but right now, it sucks. Outside of Tokyo, Nagoya? Nagoya Station just confuses me. Maybe when I go back to Nagoya, I'll learn it a lot more, but, you know, it's just confusing. To me, there's too much there, and it's just not the nicest station. The area around it's nice, but not the biggest fan of Nagoya Station. Question from Joshua Loves Cubes. What are some food wrecks you have near stations? I don't, really. My problem is I eat fast food and at chain restaurants way too often. So unfortunately, I'm not the person to go for food. But what I can say is that if you're looking for a more authentic food experience, you have to get away from the stations, away from the main touristy areas, and look for those small restaurants, whether they be ramen shops, izakayas, whatever. But if you are traveling in Japan, and especially if you're coming in the summer when it's super duper hot, look for the malls, because usually in malls or other big department stores on the top or second top floor, they will have like restaurant like just an entire restaurant floor that's got everything from Western food like, American or Italian to other Asian foods like Korean, Chinese, Indian, to different Japanese foods like sushi and katsu. You can find these at almost every single mall or every single department store throughout Tokyo and I'm assuming throughout the rest of Japan. So if you're looking for food, that's probably the best place to go look for it. I'm sorry I can't give any specific recommendations for restaurants though. Question from Cool Simba. What is, in your opinion, the most fun way to explore Tokyo by train? I don't really know if there is one way to explore Tokyo by train. What I will say is if you are going to be riding the trains a lot, look out for the day passes. I know there is one for the subway lines. The Toei and Tokyo Metro have a combined day pass that's, I think, maybe only like 800-900 yen at most. And you can just get unlimited subway line rides for an entire day. And then JR, I think, has one as well, where you get all the different JR lines within the 23 wards of Tokyo for again, 800-900 yen. So look out for those and just ride to your heart's content. I will say that riding the subways is a lot less fun than riding the surface lines like JR. So if you need to go from, say, I don't know, Shibuya to Ginza, you very well could take the Ginza line, and it's a lot faster. But taking the Yamanote or taking the Chuo and going over to Tokyo Station, then down, probably a lot better, at least in terms of a view, than taking the subway. So, take the surface lines, not the subway lines. And then second question, how do you survive the Japanese summers? That's the neat part. I don't. The first summer here was rough because I was not used to Japanese summers. The one thing I will say is, this is probably just, general advice, but you have to hydrate. I become addicted to Pocari Sweat and Aquarius every single summer. And also, actually, do I have it here somewhere? I do. Oh, it's in my backpack. So I got one of these. This is a sun umbrella. It blocks UV, and it keeps me protected from the sun. You'll see Japanese people carrying these all the time when it's hot. I think this one claimed that it was 7-8 degrees cooler temperature-wise underneath. That's in Celsius, not Fahrenheit, by the way. I bought this one at the Yodobashi or Bic camera store, I don't remember which, when I was in Kyoto back this summer, and it definitely helped me a lot. So if you are coming to Japan, buy one of these. You can buy them in almost every single store, and they definitely help. Hydrate, and spend a lot of time inside. That's really the only advice I can give. Question from AKJCRSA7. Would you like to explore rural areas like Tohoku and Chugoku region and their trains? And what is your favorite train line? So number one, would you like to explore rural areas like Tohoku and Chugoku? Yes, and I plan on it. This winter, I'm going up to Tohoku, so that's in northeastern Japan, and I'll be going to Aomori, Miyagi, Iwate, Fukushima, and exploring those areas. And I plan on making a couple videos up there, so I hope you look forward to those. Chugoku, I don't have any current plans to go to. Maybe at some point. Chugoku, that's like western Japan, like kind of the Hiroshima, Okayama area, for those who don't know. I don't have any plans to go there right now. Maybe in the next couple years I'll head out that way and to more rural parts of Japan, but definitely going to Tohoku. And second favorite train line? That's a tough one. I guess I'd say either the Tama monorail or the Yuri Kamome. I mean, they just have really nice views, the elevated lines, and, going through scenic areas. And it's always nice riding on them, and when you can get the front seats that you can just look straight on and look like you're driving the train. So I'd say probably one of those two. I don't really know if I have a single favorite one, though. Last question from YoMateRT. Why are you so cute? He. My first subscriber, ladies and gentlemen. That's actually not a lie. I know this person personally. This is my friend Tyler from the US. Tyler, I know you're watching this video. Hi, I miss you, buddy. He's been subbed to me technically since like 2014 or 2015 when we were in high school. So glad to see that my friends still support me after all these times. And I hope you like the haircut. And I think that's it. That's all for the Q&A. I hope this was a good opportunity for you all to get to know me a lot better, and I hope that I was able to answer your questions. I want to do more things like this in the future, especially with my members, all my members, well, really everyone that asked a question, but I specifically wanted to include my members in this video because should I get to the point that I have more members, I want to do more members only Q&As. So if you want to become a member and make those possible, go ahead and join my membership. You get extra perks like having your name in my videos and members only Q&As in the future. With that all being said, thank you all so much for watching today. We'll be back to more regular content coming up soon. With that, take care and goodbye for now.